Here's the best and worst legends in Apex Legends Season 27. Wasting no time, let's rank them all. We kick things off with the tried and true Octane in C tier. Truly though, I don't think there are any bad legends anymore, as honestly Respawn has done a pretty good job bumping up a lot of the lesser used and weaker legends over the past few seasons. That being said, there's so many hyper competitive pub stomping legends, and there's a lot of decent ranked legends, and for Octane, his passive regen, that tactical stim, and the ultimate launch pad just do not do enough to have him keep up with the other legends above him. If you are purely a pub player, Octane could be a high B or a low A tier legend, but for the general game, he is just fine. A legend who saw a ton of buffs last season is going to be Seer, and while they made him better for those that like to play a recon or play his type of play style, it doesn't really move the needle in terms of his power. We just aren't in a recon or scanning type of meta right now, which means his passive isn't really that great relative to a lot of the other passives. Although it can be okay to hunt rats and rank, the tactical is nice to shut down some movement legends, so there is some counterplay with that in sweaty lobbies, but his ultimate scanning is pretty avoidable, and if anything, it just brings a lot more attention to you than you probably are going to want. Seer isn't bad, the game just doesn't support his type of playstyle right now. One of my all-time favorites, and a legend who I have used quite a bit in the past, is Mirage, and honestly I think Mirage is in a pretty fair spot right now. However, his kit is just not really needed at all for ranked, and thus it keeps his overall power ranking a little bit lower. I think if you are solely a pub player, then he's an upper B, maybe soft A legend, as the ultimate is solid to confuse and make plays on enemies, but beyond this, I don't think his passive invis is going to be really that competitive. Again, if you do compare it to something like a Lifeline remote revive, or even Newcastle's mobile revive, or even Valkyrie's jetpack or Horizon's passive movement, the tactical is also still just really underwhelming. I would love to see it get a massive rework or a big buff. I always thought it would be cool if you could trade spots with the tactical. If you are looking for a straight up good time though, absolutely use Mirage. He is still a ton of fun. Moving on up, we have a slew of legends in B tier, which I think are pretty great in most aspects of Apex, but might be missing out on a couple things that keep them from hitting the upper tiers. One of Apex's most divisive legends is absolutely Crypto, and I give Crypto a soft B placement for one sole reason, and it is his ranked power. Crypto definitely is not a great pub legend, and I'd even say he's more of a D or maybe very low C legend for this, but in ranked, I think he's an excellent option, and thus his B rating. Rampart getting a huge buff this season does give Crypto even more potential, as you'll have more opportunities to break all of her barriers, and of course there are a lot of Watsons and Caustics in ranked out there as well right now, which does mean Crypto is a very good counter to these legends. Crypto can be very satisfying to play, and I think he's a little slept on, but like a few before him, we are in a very fast movement legend centric meta right now, which does not support his playstyle at all. Barely above Crypto, I do have Bloodhound. Unlike Crypto though, Bloodhound is a little more level-headed for either mode of Apex. There's not a ton to say about the Hound that hasn't been said since the beginning of Apex's days. They are decent to scan enemies and make a play. The ultimate ain't bad to push or run someone down, but I do think the passive is super forgettable in its current state. Again, when you do compare to the other passives in Apex, I would love to see our Resident Tracker get a big buff or even a complete rework to make them a little bit more competitive. If you want a purely tracking or hunting type legend, they are going to be the one for you. Our first support is here, and it's the tried and true Gibraltar. Similar to the other legends in B tier, Gibby has some great use cases, but he's a little underwhelming if you do compare him to the other supports in the upper ranks. Gibraltar's gun shield is really nice in the current marksman meta we are in, and I think the dome shield is definitely solid at endgame, but the increased use and buffs to Mad Maggie does really mean that Gibraltar simply just struggles quite a bit due to her hugely popular pick rate. I like Gibraltar, and if you do want to play like you are the team's tank and utility legend, he can be fair for this. In the same tier as Gibraltar, we do have Conduit, one of Apex's more unique legends in terms of her kit at least. Conduit brings together a very nice mix of team healing with the tactical and control possibilities via her ultimate. I don't think the healing or support properties are nearly as impactful or useful as Lifeline, and her control capabilities are much worse than someone like Watson, but if you are looking to be a little bit more of a backline player where you can control some space and apply heals to your pushing teammates, I think there's some value to be had in her kit. Our OG Sweatlord Wraith continues to see a pretty decent placement of right square in the middle of B tier. She has had much darker times and way brighter days behind her, and right now I think she can really be a decent pub legend with a slight mix of ranked usage due to her portal. I think her reset capabilities via the tactical does mean she can still be elusive to live a little bit longer. The passive is still very weak compared to others, but if you are looking for a little bit more competitiveness in a legend with one of the smallest hitboxes, she can be very solid for the warriors out there looking to take a lot of one-on-one fights. One of my preferred solo rank choices is Catalyst due to how fast she can set up and control space. Catalyst's passive and tactical can be extremely viable in ranked to stop enemies from pushing in, and because of this, she does have a soft A placement for ranked and lower B placement for the general pub players out there. Rotating with the Dark Veil is also pretty solid. There's not really a lot to say about Cat right now. She's definitely viable in Apex, and if you are a solo ranked player looking to play zone, she is going to be one of the best for this. On a sidebar though, all the other control legends have had buffs over the past couple seasons. I would like to see Catalyst get a little bit of love. Rounding out the B tier, we do have someone who I flipped a ton between putting her in A or B, and it is Vantage. Vantage is really a great legend right now, and I do think she is being slept on by the majority of Apex's player base, and it is evident by her startlingly low pick rate. There's no other legend in Apex though that can bring poking or assault properties with the sniper, skirmisher or movement properties with that tactical bat, and recon capabilities with the passive. She's one of the most unique legends out there, and if you want to make smarter plays against teams, that passive intel is really great to see if the squad is a full squad or what their shield rarities are. She's a solid pick if you do want to play a little ranked and you need a little bit of that hybrid nature use. Playing with randoms in Apex Legends is pretty awful. Lucky for you, I have a dedicated Discord with over 17,000 members where you can find like-minded players to party up with, or to even ask me any questions, as I am very active in there as well. Our amazing legends are some of the best in the game are in A tier, and all of these are very viable in both ranked or pubs in Apex Legends. Ballistic had one solid season of being absolutely insane, but after some nerfs, he has landed in a pretty great spot. Definitely not the best, but also not the worst out there. If you are looking to just straight up take fights, he's definitely the one via his third weapon possibilities and the faster movement you can get in his ultimate. The tactical to temporarily reduce enemies' time to kill is also clutch if used properly and at the right moment in a fight. I think he's an okay rank pick, but maybe he will falter a little bit due to the somewhat slower nature of the mode. I do think Olympus being the featured map this season and the update having a ton of verticality might also mean you want a movement legend rather than a boots on the ground legend like Ballistic. One of Apex's most popular legends still gets an amazing placement, and is the grappling zipline master himself, Pathfinder. Path is arguably the most dynamic and versatile movement legend in Apex, which does give him a ton of power. Path's grapple is in a great spot right now, and in the opposite sense of Ballistic, Path has a lot of viability due to the map rotation, at least in the first half of Season 27. The zipline is very good as a ranked rotation tool, and if there's one thing that continues to bring Pathfinder down, it's his absolutely massive hitbox, which is pretty fair for just how fast he can maneuver around the battlefield. If you want a legend with a super high skill ceiling and a ton of potential and is honestly a blast, Path is absolutely someone to learn and master. Apex's most true hybrid legend, Bangalore, continues to see some upper placements due to her overall ability to control the battlefield. Not a lot to say about one of Apex's oldest and most staple legends in the game. If you want to control the battlefield with smokes, apply pressure relief through that rolling thunder, and move a little bit quicker with her double time, she definitely has this on lockdown. Another legend still being completely slept on is absolutely Newcastle. Newcastle was insanely strong during that season of support from a while back, and even though he's not as strong right now, the Castle is one of the best support legends for those that want a do-it-all type of legend. Revive and protect the team, cover with the tactical, and gain control of high ground with that ultimate that can also stop incoming Mad Maggie drills, grenades, and lots more abilities. I do see some potential for Newcastle this season due to Olympus being featured and the need to really hold up areas or choke points. If you want to be the savior of the squad and be very active in fights, then Newcastle is definitely a great pick for you. Apex's true Loot Queen is another amazing legend this season, and really, since her inception, she's been in A tier for me pretty much all along. If you want to speed up the loot process and take more fights, her black market's great for this. And in the opposite sense, if you are playing zone and you can't get out of your cover to go loot some death boxes, then she's great in ranked as well. She's definitely known for her ultimate, but I do think her tactical is also one of the best parts of her kit. She's extremely elusive and probably the best legend to get out of bad situations or to use that ability to gain height on enemy squads. If you struggle with your gun skill but you still want to be useful to the team, then Loba's gonna be a really great pick if you don't have thumbs. A legend who is absolutely an S tier legend for ranked Apex this season due to that massive buff she saw is the buffed and improved Rampart. Rampart's tactical amp walls have been put into overdrive with them having more health, the amp portion getting a roof, and you get a speed boost to rotate out of and make a play if you do get some damage from behind that wall. I still think the increase in usage of Mad Maggie will make Rampart struggle a little bit, which is why she is an A for the general power of the game. But if you are looking for a mix of control and pressure possibility, then Rampart is one of the best right now for this. Her ultimate can also, of course, be really great to mow enemies over if they are caught off guard as well. Keep a close eye on Rampart, as she's the real deal right now, and I could see a Mad Maggie nerf coming sometime mid-season, which would make Rampart definitely skyrocket on my ranking. A legend who more or less gets a bump this season solely due to the competition being buffed is going to be Fuse. Fuse has always been slept on, I think at least, and with Rampart being more widely used this season, there's more room for Fuse to shine and break Rampart's barriers and really just be a nuisance. I think Fuse is more of a pub stomper, so if you want to play ranked, then his counterpart Mad Maggie is a little better for that, and I would look at her if you want to be more competitive with the overall meta. Fuse's ultimate can still decimate people caught in it, and I think all those nades Fuse can stack up on is a little underrated. Lots of viability in Fuse's kit right now, and I would use him if you want to apply pressure and farm lots of free damage and maybe go for a 4K. A legend who slips a little bit due to a handful of nerfs to her passive movement and the tactical is going to be Ashe. Ashe had nearly a year of extreme effectiveness, and it should be noted that she is still very viable and amazing right now, just not as much as last season or the season before. She can still juke enemies with the passive, rotate the team to height, or get out of bad situations with her ultimate, and snag enemies with that tactical snare to make some plays. Ashe is a really solid pick for anyone wanting to take some fights and be more of an active movement player with that passive. Rounding out the A tier is going to be the one and only Wattson. I struggled a ton with where to place her, but I think a high A makes sense for the general game. Now, if you want to play aggressive, then Caustic, who I have yet to talk about, is going to be a little better, but Wattson for me is really my ultimate ranked legend, as she has really come a long way in the past few years. Control space with the fences, and you don't need that ultimate anymore to get fences faster, and the fences are super flexible in terms of where you can place them. Stop pesky nades or abilities like a Mad Maggie drill or her ball with the ultimate, and save some shields via the passive. Wattson is probably the legend with the highest skill ceiling in all of Apex due to how many actions per minute you really need to do to actually make her kit useful. So if you want a straightforward control experience, then I probably would look at Caustic, but if you want to challenge yourself and feel maybe a little bit more rewarded for making a great play or a great use of her fences, then absolutely give Wattson a go. If you ever want to interact with me and ask me questions about Apex, be sure to drop me a follow over there on my Twitch, and I would be more than happy to chat with you and answer any questions that you might have. The best of the best and the must-use legends in Apex Legends are all of these legends in S tier, and by far, there's the most amount of S tier legends this season than I've ever had in the past, which does a really great job at showing how strong and honestly, even how balanced the set of legends we have are. Ultimately, it kind of comes down to how you want to play and what you are looking to do in-game. Kicking us off though is going to be that companion or the equal to the legend we just spoke about, and it is Gas Daddy. I put Caustic in S tier because he is just a straight up menace, and honestly, one of the most difficult legends in the game to deal with. Even though I don't think he is overly needed in pubs where players are just flying around, he still has a ton of endgame aggressive properties to really turn the tide in your favor. However, if you want the ultimate ranked legend to hold up spots and grind placement, there might be no one better right now. Caustic's gas traps are very viable after last season's changes to hold up areas or even toss them at enemy players camping behind rocks and so on. Going even further than this, the gas grenade is equally an offensive tool to push enemies or apply a nice period of relief where you can completely reset yourself in the team. Ultimately, whether you choose Caustic or another controller legend like Wattson will depend on how aggressive you want to play in your games. If you want to take fights in ranked though, Caustic is probably the best legend in the game if you do want to control space as well. Our premier and really only support option at the top of the game continues to be Lifeline. Much like the other OG legends, there's really not a lot to say about her. She's probably one of the best choices for those who are new to Apex, or if you want to support the team with minimal skill needed. Remote revives are clutch, providing instant reset with her ultimate is also broken, and being able to keep an eye on the team and give them some health heals from anywhere really around them is very valuable. I don't think Lifeline is as needed in pubs, but in ranked, I'd argue she should almost always be an auto pick as the third or only support legend on the squad to back up some of those other control or aggressive legends that people are going to be picking this season. I've mentioned it a few times, but this season, the map rotation and the highlighted map being Olympus definitely means some legends have a bigger buff, and Alter definitely falls in this category. Alter has had a few nerfs last season and the season before, but her overall power and utility to transport the team and get some free resets is very good. In particular though, you will find more value in Alter's tactical this season to help transport your squad through Olympus. Alter may or may not make the cut for the ultimate ranked squad, but you can't go wrong with her in both pubs or ranked Apex. I look at Alter if you want a little mix of that aggro play and support play. Season 27's legend who received the largest amount of changes in a big way is Valkyrie, and she's going to slot herself back into S tier. If you haven't played her yet, the amount of buffs she got is truly staggering. Every part of her kit is bigger, better, stronger, and faster and more frequent jetpack movement that is much like her original self, maybe even better. Tactical missiles that work from anywhere, even inside buildings, and you can't stun yourself. And her ultimate is ready to launch quicker, making it a much more convenient and higher rotation tool than an evac tower. She has versatility in pubs to fight enemies, and she has a ton of rotational power in ranked to bypass bad portions of Apex's maps. Absolutely do not sleep on Valkyrie right now. She is pretty awesome, and I'm not gonna lie, it feels pretty good to redeploy and shoot some missiles down on enemies that you are flying over. Apex's most recent addition to the game, Sparrow, continues to see more and more viability at the top of the game. Much of this new viability is due to nerfs to a few of the other of Apex's top dogs, but Sparrow is a really great movement recon assault legend that brings one of the most unique experiences to the game. The double jump is great for overall traversal and playmaking, where the tactical darts are solid to watch your back or provide just enough distraction to enemies in the middle of a gunfight. His ultimate is a huge playmaker to truly force movement on enemies or break barriers down on those camping up in power positions. There's a lot of great movement legends right now, but one of the most free-flowing legends out there is definitely Sparrow. Returning to the top of the meta in Apex, probably after a couple years I would say, is Apex's most slippery legend, Horizon, and she's most likely going to be staying here for a little bit of time. Her changes were fairly minimal, but they impacted her in big ways. The gravity lift is great to make plays on enemies, and it's faster this season, plus you can stay at the top of that lift for longer. Not to mention the cooldown is much quicker, as you'll only have about 8 to 10 seconds of downtime now. On top of this, her upgrades let you choose between falling faster to the ground, being a little bit more lethal in a fight, whereas the opposite lets you travel truly insane distances floating through the air, much like Lifeline can with her drone. What you choose will depend on how you want to play. The Black Hole saw some small buffs of health, and of course, her passive is still one of the best in all of Apex. Horizon for me is absolutely a top 3 pub legend, and arguably a great ranked legend due to her tactical rotation power. Taking a step back from some movement legends, we now have an assault legend at the top, and it's the previously mid-season 26 buffed Mad Maggie. If you are unaware, Mad Maggie's drill now fires faster, the wrecking ball comes out quicker, and for the most part, every part of her ultimate does more damage or is more effective. Also, her passive can be upgraded to allow you to move quicker with SMGs and pistols, which means the R9 and the RE45 are simply just better on her than they are on the other characters in the game. Rampart being buffed should make her a little bit more useful this season as well against her amped walls, but on the same time, if Olympus is that ranked map rotation for that day, you may want to turn to a movement legend on that reworked Olympus. I think in a perfect world this season, you're probably using someone like Maggie with a movement legend like Valkyrie or Horizon or Revenant backed up with the support legend like Lifeline. Of course, if you are playing more reserve, you can swap any of these out for Watson or Caustic as well. In Season 26, most used legend Revenant did see a little nerf of the movement speed during the tactical, but for the most part, Revenant is still absolutely incredible as a fragging legend, which means he's great in pubs, and in ranked, he's really great to traverse around and just really keep enemies busy. Olympus in a lot of ways caters to his play style as well, since you can climb up a ton of those taller areas on the map. The ultimate makes him a real beast to go in first with the team and soak up some extra damage while your teammates do flank. And as a whole, if you want to really be flying around that map, taking lots and lots of fights, Rev is one of the top legends in the game for this. Be sure to check out my weapon ranking video on screen when that is live. Hit that like button, sub for more, and I will see you in my Discord. Happy gaming, legends.